Information, Entropy, Life, and the Universe. This presentation is a brief summary of the book with the same title. In the first part of this article, we present the definitions of two central concepts: the Shannon measure of information in information theory, and entropy in thermodynamics. In the second part of the article, we examine the question of whether living systems and the entire universe are or are not within the framework of applicability of the concepts of SMI and entropy. It is appropriate to quote here Einstein's statement on thermodynamics is the only physical theory of universal content, which I am convinced that within the framework of applicability of its basic concepts will never be overthrown. We should start by emphasizing the distinction between two concepts. The first is the general concept of information. The second is a specific kind of information to which a specific measure was developed by Shannon. Information is a very general concept. Everyone knows what information means. We know that information can be true or false, much as it can be important or irrelevant, or can be objective or highly subjective. All these properties of information are not properties of Shannon's measure of information. In 1948, Shannon published a remarkable article entitled A Mathematical Theory of Communication. Assuming several simple assumptions, Shannon concluded, the only function satisfying the three assumptions above is the form. Shannon called the quantity H the entropy of the set of probabilities P1 to Pn. A schematic description of the relative sizes of the general information, the information that is measurable by SMI, and the information measurable by entropy. Some authors assign to the quantity minus log pi the meaning of self-information associated with the event I. They then claim that the SMI is a measure of the average information. This interpretation of probability is invalid. The best way of interpreting H as a measure of information is by using the 20 questions game. This is discussed at great length in the work of Ben Naim. Here, it is simply stated the SMI is a measure of the amount of information one needs to obtain by asking binary questions in order to find out which outcome has occurred, given the knowledge on the probability distributions of all possible outcomes of that game. We define the bit as units of information by using an experiment with only two equal probable outcomes. The bit is a unit of information, not information, and certainly not the smallest possible chunk of information. The most well-known quotation regarding the status of information as physical is from Wheeler. Three different but equivalent definitions of entropy. Number 1, the Clausius definition of entropy. Clausius, who coined the term entropy and made the most famous statement about the second law. The entropy of the universe always increases. Clausius did not truly define entropy. Instead, he defined a small change in entropy for one very specific process. Clausius' definition is used for calculating entropy changes, even for processes that do not involve heat transfer. Number 2, the Boltzmann definition. Boltzmann defined entropy in terms of the total number of accessible microstates of a system consisting of a huge number of particles, but characterized by the macroscopic parameters of energy E, volume V, and number of particles N. Number 3, Ben Naim's definition of entropy based on Shannon's measure of information. This is a relatively recent definition of entropy. Originally, this definition provided an intuitive informational interpretation of entropy. Conclusion: entropy, by all definition, is defined for equilibrium states. Thus, the framework of applicability for the entropy is the equilibrium state. Therefore, it follows that neither of the definitions of entropy may be applied to any living system. Neither of the definitions of entropy may be applied to the entire universe.